You know, when you think about stealth technology, those incredible invisible jets that just slip past enemy radar, you probably picture some top-secret American lab, right? Billions of dollars, the best minds in the world. But what if I told you the whole story has a wild twist? That the real blueprint for America's air power wasn't in some secure vault, but was actually found on a dusty library shelf? Yeah, let's get into it.
So, let's start with this. This is the B-21 Raider, unveiled not too long ago. It's the world's first sixth-generation bomber, and it's being sold as a true super stealth aircraft, the kind that can supposedly fly through any air defense system on the entire planet. It is, for all intents and purposes, the absolute bleeding edge of aviation.
But what if the fundamental idea that makes this multi-billion-dollar machine even possible isn't new at all? What if its biggest, most important secret has been hiding in plain sight for over 60 years?
To really understand the B-21, we have to rewind the clock. We're going back to the height of the Cold War, and to a source that's going to blow your mind. See, for years, American engineers were hitting a brick wall. They were trying to figure out the incredibly complex physics of how radar waves work, and they just couldn't crack the code for invisibility. The breakthrough they needed, it didn't come from their own labs. Honestly, they were totally stuck.
The key was found right here, in a completely unclassified book published in the Soviet Union in 1962. The author, a physicist named Pyotr Ufimtsev, had absolutely no idea that he was about to hand the United States the keys to the kingdom and become the unintentional father of American stealth. Ufimtsev's work was basically a mathematical recipe. It was a formula that could tell you exactly how a radar wave would bounce off an object just based on its shape. He figured out that the reflection mostly comes from the edges. So if you had his formula, you could design a shape that would scatter radar waves away from a receiver instead of bouncing them right back.
So the big question is, why didn't the Soviets use this to build their own invisible air force? Well, it's because they looked at the exact same theory and came to a totally different conclusion. They figured that any plane built with all those crazy sharp angles would be a nightmare to fly, just aerodynamically awful. So they decided, you know what? It's faster, cheaper, and way smarter to just build better radars to find the enemy.
But for the United States, this wasn't just some theoretical debate. They had a very real and very painful reason to chase after invisibility, no matter the cost.
And that reason was Vietnam. On July 24, 1965, something happened that shocked the U.S. Air Force. American pilots, flying some of their most advanced jets, were suddenly being shot out of the sky by Soviet-made surface-to-air missiles. All of a sudden, American dominance of the skies was no longer a sure thing.
And the losses, they were just staggering. Almost 1,000 American planes were lost to these Soviet-designed missile systems over the course of the war. Every single loss was a brutal reminder that their best tech could be beaten.
This whole experience lit a fire under the Pentagon. They realized that just flying higher or faster wasn't going to cut it anymore. They needed something completely different, a radical new solution, a plane that radar just couldn't see coming.
So, armed with a translated copy of Ufimtsev's book, American engineers finally had their roadmap. But as they were about to find out, the word invisible is, well, it's a pretty strong word.
Okay, so let's do a quick Radar 101. It's pretty simple. A station sends out a radio wave. If that wave hits a metal object, like a plane, it bounces back. The receiver picks up that bounce, and boom, it knows where the plane is. Easy enough, right? This is where it all comes together. On the left, you've got a normal plane. Its metal skin and round curves act like a mirror, reflecting that radar signal right back where it came from. But the stealth plane on the right does two brilliant things. First, its skin is made of special materials that actually absorb radar energy, kind of like a sponge. And second, its shape is made up of all those flat panels and sharp angles, just like Ufimtsev's math said, to scatter whatever's left of the signal away from the enemy.
And this was the first result, the F-117 Nighthawk. I mean, look at it. It's less of a plane and more of a flying geometry problem. It looked absolutely bizarre, but it was the literal, physical embodiment of that Soviet formula. It flew like a brick, but that wasn't the point. It was designed to do one thing and one thing only, be invisible to radar. For years, the legend of the F-117 grew. It was the ultimate ghost plane. Until it wasn't. Which brings us to this incredible poster from the Kosovo War in 1999.
because on March 27th of that year, the invisible F-117 was very, very publicly shot down over Serbia.
And the part that really shocked everyone was what brought it down. America's most high-tech, top-secret, invisible jet was defeated by an S-125 missile system, a Soviet design from 1961. It was 20 years older. Turns out, the Serbs were using an old, long-wavelength radar, and the F-117's design just wasn't optimized to hide from that specific type of signal. Invisibility, it turned out, was relative.
This whole incident really blew the lid off a huge debate that goes right back to the beginning of our story. This deep philosophical difference in how America and Russia think about designing fighter jets.
It really breaks down like this. The US approach with planes like the F-117 and the B-2 is to go all in on being invisible, maximum stealth, even if it means you get a plane that's slow, not very agile, and totally dependent on computers just to stay in the air. The Russian approach is more about balance. They want superior maneuverability and performance first. They'll add some stealth features for sure, but they won't sacrifice the plane's ability to fly and fight.
And that American obsession with pure stealth? Man, it comes at a breathtaking cost. These planes are incredibly complex and fragile. In 2008, a B-2 bomber crashed just because of some moisture in its sensors. That was a $2 billion loss. Others have had fires and landing accidents, leading to repairs that cost hundreds of millions of dollars and take years.
So, the other philosophy is basically this. Being incredibly agile is its own kind of stealth. A jet like the Su-57 can pull off maneuvers that seem to defy physics. It can practically stop in midair, all to break a radar lock or dodge a missile. The thinking is pretty straightforward. If you can outfly the threat, does it really matter if they can see you?
And this brings us right back to where we started, to this endless cat and mouse game between seeing and not being seen.
You know, as technology keeps pushing forward, it really seems like true, perfect invisibility might just be a myth. The F-117 was spotted by old radar. More recently, Iran claimed that its Russian-made radar systems were able to track American F-35 stealth fighters. And it all leads back to a conclusion that sounds a lot like that original Soviet decision. It's probably faster, cheaper, and more effective to just invent new ways of seeing things than it is to build a new plane that can't be seen.
Which leaves us with the B-21 Raider. We're talking over $700 million for each one. This is America's biggest bet ever on the idea of invisibility. So the question we have to ask is, have they finally done it? Have they finally built a truly invisible plane? Or are we just watching the next most expensive chapter in a story that started, of all places, with a forgotten Soviet book?